Hello, and a very Merry
Great,
Christmas.
that's Pepe, isn't it?
Yeah, I've used that so many times. Um, Merry Christmas. The 3rd of December, I can say that now, can't I?
Yeah, yeah. I'm holding off the urge to eat my daughter's advent calendar day by day.
Oh, no.
Milky Bar.
You just need to get yourself one.
Yeah, I've already had that.
Oh, fair enough. The danger for me has been I've been buying mince pies and doing another like 1,500 calories a day easy on them alone. It's been really, really good for the mental health, though, in these current conditions.
I bet. Yeah, there's some incredible food. Like the Terry's chocolate orange Baileys is out as well, but I obviously can't get my hands on it at the minute. So
Interesting. I didn't know that existed.
yeah. It's
Right.
just like a month as well for indulgence, isn't it? Christmas.
Yeah. Same shit every year, isn't it? Just get fat as fuck, feel horrendous.
Yeah. New year, new me. Off we go.
Anyway, I told myself I'd bring high energy to this one for a couple of weeks, because other streams out there that are for boys who like to take the tops off at dinner parties. They come out of the traps flying. So how about this? Welcome back to the Blockmates podcast, everyone. It's me and Grant. Got loads of good stuff for you today. We're going to talk about some stuff that's bleak. And we're going to talk about some stuff that's good, like the Kabuto Pokemon story, because I just love shit like that. And Meta DAO, because I think that's positive. But it's my first in a couple of weeks. So it's nice to be here. Nice to be back with you, mate. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. It's fucked. We were considering pivoting to stockmates, ramping up big machines, and just pivoting completely away from the industry because it's all fucked. But yeah, other than that, how was Argentina? I heard you just called it Spain, but further away.
Yeah. Do you know what? I didn't enjoy it. Not Argentina. The week I enjoyed what we did. I enjoyed the 3 interviews. Obviously, the linear Aetherex one is out. Starknet's next week, and then I think Ready is coming either later next week or early next. And I enjoyed that, but it felt like it felt like a proper conference-y conference. Does that make sense? And don't get me wrong, like we had some good events, like Hype did a candlelight concert thing, which was sick. That was fucking sick. And the cafes across the city and stuff were set up cool. I mean, more so just bearish on some of the attendees, like bootstrapped devs building some dog shit protocol that's just never going to do anything. And on repeat over and over, like the small talk that you can't get away from, and then you have to like get 5 minutes into a conversation before you realize if it's like a shit one, and then you can't even.
What's your go-to like dip? Like what's your move? What's your move to get out of conversations? Is it like toilet? Is it bar? Is it drink?
I
usually just like neck my drink and be like, oh, I need another drink.
Yeah, I've seen you do that. I just break eye contact now. I just break eye contact, and I'm like, yeah. But jokes aside, I think that it's been a year of them, and it was compared to Korea, where we obviously had like a really good event that we hosted and had our own thing. I felt too caught up in like a side event mingle, and that's like never a good place to be, because you end up in this awful like place of, I don't even know how they are. They're just like career people that aren't really who you want to be.
NPCs, like LinkedIn NPCs, but in real life, like
it's just this it's this weird thing, isn't it? It's almost like these things are really, really good for doing like an element of networking. But there was a really good tweet that Andy sent me, actually, and it was one from Peach, and I'm actually going to read it since we're on the topic. And it said, "There's so many people who work in BD and marketing in brackets career farm that you can fill entire events with, where they talk to each other while the real participants avoid them. The dynamic is strange but adds up, where the majority of content comes from the places filled with self-marketers, and the authentic participants, for all the obvious reasons if you're a real participant, filter away and towards each other. This doesn't mean all content is bad or everyone doxed is inauthentic, or that all who work in BD and marketing are just career farmers / self-marketers, but it's generally true to say that the incentives compound into the people who most want to be the face of the story, being the people who aren't actually part of the story." And the tweet goes on, and I felt that was heavy in Argentina. And I don't know why. Maybe it was just where I chose to spend my time. But you know, just some of these workshops from people who, like, what gives you a right to do a fucking workshop when I've never even heard of you or whatever the brand is, and maybe it's, you know, from a positive point of view, maybe it is the industry maturing, and maybe it's a symptom of the bad that comes with that, and you get the corporate weapon LinkedIn slop.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable, because you've probably got like tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 marketers that have been at, like, I don't know, a well-established company, whether that be a SaaS or early stage startup, and then they come over to crypto. They probably have like reasonably larger budget. They've got a pretty good pedigree. They've got a good LinkedIn profile, and think they can just overlay what is typically the route forward in that industry, and then just map it over to what happens here. And as I say, it just doesn't work. Like, categorically, just does not work. But with that comes the circle jerk, like, marketing BS that comes with like an industry trying to reach maturation. And everyone seems to think, oh yeah, we're gonna like break Instagram, we're gonna break LinkedIn, we're gonna break like TikTok. People have been saying that for the past 3 years, and it's never worked. Like, some people just like, I don't know, I can't get away from it. Like, it just makes me feel a bit sick.
Can I just add to this though and say that I don't want to discredit, or I don't want to shit on people building their careers. I obviously think that's important, and I don't mean this to sound like that's not what you should be doing, but I think that it's very, very easy to spot the social climbers, and there's a very nice happy medium between those who are actually here and get it and are well connected, and you want to
not even just marketing. It's the whole industry is like smoke and mirrors. Like, and that's what like ties the vast majority of that's what drives the vast majority of attention. And it's weird. It's like this kind of like Stockholm syndrome of people gravitate towards the bullshit. But then you also have like silent majority that, you know, as that post quite rightly says, you do get those people who actually know what they're talking about tend to gravitate towards each other as well. But it's less in your face and it's less flashy and wanky. So,
and can I just say as well, I do think that, like, even that post, it's the marketing BD people that get the bad rep for this. But I think that's slightly unfair, because I think that also transcends other roles. Like, as I say, the main problem I meet at these conferences is these like delusional devs that are just get a job, mate. Just get a job. Like,
get a real job.
No one gives a shit about what you're building. Like, it's fucked. Everything, as the title, like, you know, as the title of this stream suggests, everything is so. But what was positive though? We did like, and you always, it's like the corner of the room where you have these conversations with people. It's typically, and it's probably a symptom of who we are as people and blockmates as a whole, is that the people who do genuinely like watch all of our shit and are just like the blockmates ride or dies, they're just like us. They're just bitter, washed up unks that are never going to give you any positive feedback anyway. So like, when you do get it, it's all that more satisfactory, you know, because you're like, oh yeah, when people say you guys are the real ones, it's like, well, that makes it.
Yeah,
That makes it cool.
there are good people as well. It's just the minority.
But I'm aware I've just slated that week. It definitely wasn't that bad. Like, I fucking ate steak, drank wine, hung out with some people that I rate very, very highly. But yeah, just it's more fun to talk about negative stuff, isn't it? So what do you think? Because I with where we're at, I mean, literally at the time of recording, what are we going to be at? So 92k Bitcoin. What do you think? I fucked it the other day. Was just violently trading on emotion, exited a few positions that I had open, saw them all bounce almost immediately.
They were just waiting for you to press the red button, that's all it was.
As is always the case. It's always you, isn't it? It's always me. It's always like, as soon as you sell, everything reverses. That's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating with everything that's going on with equities and even gold and silver, to be fair, or even fucking Pokemon cards, which we'll get into later. There seems to be a bull market everywhere else, and then you get bludgeoned with positive news and sentiment that would have sent markets double digits overnight in any other time. And it's almost like we've had this embarrassment of riches with regards to positive news, and it's just totally saturated and just water off ducks back, like the Vanguard thing. 11 trillion in AUM, like any other, well, in any other kind of fucking parallel universe, that should be sending everything like ballistic, but it's just a wet fart at the minute. That Vinny in the back there.
Fierce, by the way.
No, it's pure laziness, to be honest.
I saw Vinny in the background there for the first time in a long time as well.
He's probably just fucking bits of one of somebody's came up here.
Yeah. So, right, so since we're talking about sentiment and market, let's start with the negatives first, shall we? So, one of the main ones being that has, created fear on the streets this week has been the MicroStrategy thing. Now, I have been in catch-up mode for the past few days, actually, in sort of seeing what has gone on. But the crux of this one is strategy. Basically, have said that the market to net asset value which is a ratio that is gauging the company's value to its BTC holdings. It was 1.15. That was as of this morning, which means that its enterprise value is worth 15% more than its Bitcoin. Now, if that falls below 1, then strategy would therefore face a crisis, and the reason for holding the stock would vanish, and we would likely see mass selling. That's the concern. The CEO, Fong Lei, have I pronounced that correctly? How would you pronounce that?
I'm not even going to go with that.
Yeah. Fair. Super fair. He did say that they'd be ready to sell some of the Bitcoin to meet the dividend commitments on the debt and preferred shares. And the exact quote was, "Now, as we are looking at Bitcoin winter," which, referring to anything as crypto winter, by the way, is the biggest normie telltale sign. Like, what an awful term that is. So anyway, he said, as we see our MNAV compressing, my hope is that it doesn't go below 1, but if we do, and we didn't have any other access to capital, we would sell Bitcoin. And then there's basically an investor presentation doc with the sell game plan properly outlined. But they have actually created like a 1.44 billion cash reserve to try and calm people down and safeguard future dividend and interest payments. And there's stories on this all over the site. So not our site, other sites. But this feels to me, when I read this and was kind of getting my head around it, that as funny as it's been watching us all watching Sailor just fucking YOLO it over God knows how long it's been, it felt like a bit of a time bomb.
Yeah.
What do you think?
There's a few things that are quite interesting from this. So obviously the strategy CEO was the person to come out and finally say that if MNAV does go below 1, then they're going to have to sell. Sailor's, like, there's no PR around Sailor actually saying that. I think you'd have to, like, probably waterboard him or do some form of like stripping of the skin and fingernails off to get him to say that he would actually sell Bitcoin. So it's interesting that it came from like a different voice. Obviously that would have to happen, but it is the first kind of pivot away from we will buy the top forever, Laura, which they will. But at the same time, it's like even when Bitcoin's at all-time highs, they seem to get like filled 10% higher than like the fucking spot price. It's like, so all that to say, yes, any old retard can go and get filled, like just market buy for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even seven figures without like ridiculous slippage on the price. Yes, they are buying considerable size. Yes, they probably get their pants pulled down because they know it's strategy trying to accumulate, and they can probably have them over a barrel because of the size that they're trying to acquire. But those sloppy fills might come back to bite them on the arse, because if it is all said and done and it was just down to execution of it, like terrible execution all the time, that does end them in a situation where they do have to kind of offload. It's not going to look as funny. It's funny on the way up when they're just constantly buying the top, but if there does have to be a slight unwind, then what's the extent of that? Does it get front run? Can they just continue the derivatives on top of derivatives to Ponzi-fire to be able to buy money? Like, I don't know how it plays out, but it's going to make an amazing movie at some point. That's all I know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who'd play him.
I feel like we had this conversation a long time ago.
Yeah, I was putting Damian Lewis forward for him. But...
That's a left field shout. Where do you, as far as like a wider market outlook though, say you did get this, and that, I always thought like that would be a major, like one of your classic black swans, right? What do you think that I think you talked about this with 563 on Round Trippers recently about like bear market, and it just feels absolutely nonsensical to be throwing that term around. But with sentiment, price action, as much as we're joking about getting chopped up and selling the bottom and shit like that, where do you think that we are actually at the minute? Putting all this strategy stuff aside, say they did start offloading millions and millions. I guess that's a conversation for another day. But is it as bad as we've titled the stream? Everything is fucked and this bounce will fail like the others, or do you think it's a little bit more complex than that?
So I think my answer is probably reflective of the wider industry. So price looks like it's rolling over, and it looks terrible, which is weird because of the backdrop of how strong the fundamentals are. And I think that's consistent across the board. And I think that's why people are so disillusioned of what the hell's going on. Because there's such a huge dislocation between all the positive news, all the reduced regulatory frameworks, anything that's going to drive the industry forward. It feels like it's a bit of a blank slate in comparison to what we had in 2020, 2021, even before that, where it was like, it's a criminal industry. They put in immense blockers on innovations that are actually happening in the industry, and now like those guardrails have been taken off and innovations technically being allowed to flourish, plus institutional buy-in and legitimizing of the industry. Outside of Bitcoin, prices just totally aren't reflecting that. So in a rational world, you'd assume this is just a pullback and you got continuation across the board. That's not what we've seen for the past 18 months. So I think it'd be foolish to try and guess which way we're actually heading over the next 12 months, because on paper you could say everything looks great, QE starting, like, let's go off to the races. the past 18 months has proved the opposite of that. And anyone who's been holding alts from last cycle, or anyone who's been tied in knots holding Ethereum, like I'd be so disenfranchised. For some people, it's been a 4-year bear market, so no wonder everyone's fucking losing their shit. Then you compound that with equities ripping, gold ripping, silver ripping, fucking Kabuto, Pokemon cards ripping. It's like, what are we even doing?
I think when we titled this stream, we were like, how do we land on something that's somewhere in between clickbait and like not really what we think? Well, we
don't say what you actually think.
Don't say what you actually think. Look, this isn't the stream for high energy, right? Like, this is not, thread guys over there. Yeah. if that's what you want, but no, is what you're saying that are you cautiously bearish for the long term? Because let's just pull it back a sec as well, and beyond price action. Nev, stop saying this. Yeah, Nev, stop saying the quiet part out loud. Beyond price action, right? What is there at the minute? What's done well that's launched?
We got like a tumbleweed animation anyway. Henry. No, like, so what's the crux of the problem? We've still got like drastic overhang from.
And by the way, I mean network wise. Let me just say, less so protocol success. Right. But I mean like network wise, like some major launches recently, whether it's Monad, whether it's the Canal Fogos, anything like that. Like, what has actually really caught hold?
So, obviously the darling child of this cycle has been Hyperliquid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I still think we've got backed up prior cycle commitments to a style of launch that is still adding to this overhang of supply, right? So I feel like every cycle there's a couple of different playbooks that teams use to actually get tokens off the ground and distribution. So we take a step back, like 2017 ICOs, that basically gets criminalized and ends up resulting in a shit ton of scams. A few projects did come out of the ashes there, and kind of form the foundations of what were the top DeFi projects into 2020, 2021. Then you get basically Andre comes around with Yearn and fair launches, says nobody's getting any tokens, you have to farm it. That creates a plethora of kind of like food farms and pool to Ponzi's. Then you get Own Forks, and then you get Tomb Forks, and then you get NFTs. So all of these are just different forms of how do you get a token to market and how do you distribute it properly. Then, as equal and opposite reactions always play out, you get low flow high FTV. Teams realize that there's an all L1 trade, so you can kind of market these networks as the next Ethereum killer and get like double-digit valuations in the private markets, and the trade's actually already played out for those people who've been in seed, at pre-seed, seed, Series A, and then token launches maybe at Series B, and who's like left all the bag. The difference being that there was like tremendous upside for the likes of Phantom, Solana, Avalanche, Nia, any old L1 that was supposed to be an Ethereum killer last cycle. The problem being, this time around, we've still had that playbook mapped over to a different cycle. And the rules change, the rules of the game change, and premiums compress. And that's what we've kind of seen. So I put a tweet out this week, and I don't know if you've seen it, because you've just been catching up. 2016, Revolut did a crowdfunding raise for £1 million at a 42 million valuation. They just did their final funding round recently. It's a $75 billion company. So Revolut, who at the time had 100,000 users, yes, they weren't technically profitable at that time. Neither is basically any company in crypto, but they were only raising at 42 million valuation. So you've got teams that are coming in at like, well, I can't remember any team that has raised like sub 50 million. There's certain networks that are raising up like into the billions, and they're wondering why we've got this kind of like fallout and this downside. And who's expected to hold the bag there? Is it retail? What are you giving them access to actually? It just doesn't make any sense. So you've still got overhang of like yesteryear's playbook still to play out. What you're getting now is more with the ICO launch, and again, I feel like that's already been co-opted. I don't think it's had its day in the sun. Kobe might have sold the top on ICOs because I think it doesn't necessarily matter the launch mechanic. If there's no upside or no liveliness to still be had in the secondary market, it's dead on arrival. So then I suppose our job is to find, well, what's the equal and opposite reaction to that? Well, the only thing that's on the market currently that is given fair, equal access to stuff that is legitimate from a product and team perspective, that holds teams accountable, and that doesn't allow them to raise obscene amounts of money pre-product, is what's happening on MetaDAO at the minute. That is the only thing that feels like there might be a beacon of hope in the industry for me at the minute. And I know that's like terrible to say, but until all this shit washes out and there's life like brought back into the secondary markets, you're not going to attract new users. Speculation is the driver of all innovation, and it has to leave meat on the bone for the average person.
I think that if we're taking people on a journey with this pod, right? Because we're like, right, we'll do a catch-up stream, see where things are at. It's looking pretty bleak. That's why we played Wham last Christmas for you. And that's also why we have done this lovely little new screen. So when Jimmy appears in your DMs and tries to sell you sponsorship on the Blockmates podcast for 65 grand a month, this is why you're paying those numbers, people. Because look, you're telling me you don't want to be on Windows 95 with your little FOMO and Kinsu folders. It's worth every penny. Just a cool 65k each to see us through the bear market. Just message Alex Blockmates. I'll send you to Jimmy. We hired just a handsome Dutch guy that you just can't say no to.
Irresistible.
He's irresistible. But speaking of that, so let's flip this positive then. Let's talk about MetaDAO, because when you and I were shooting the shit on it earlier, and we were having a look at through some of the top performers in that category on CoinGecko, it is like a really unique way to launch, isn't it? It's sort of this incentivized structure of, well, I'm going to throw it to you to kind of talk to people more, because as I say, I'm still getting my head around it properly. But this kind of new mechanism to sort of like lay undeniable KPIs down for whether it's a team or whether it's a token, some of which we will put up for debate, because I think what has also been so unfair about this market, and also the teams that are participating in the building of this market, is they are predominantly being held to unfair expectations, in my opinion. So when I'm seeing good teams get onslaughts of vitriol and abuse because the token's performing like shit, right on cue, there's Jimmy, GM Fellow Bulls. Anyone who wants to pay $65,000 a month to sponsor the Blockmates podcast, Jimmy's your man there. And that's what you get. Look at this screen.
You know, some people are going to think you're being serious.
I'm not being serious. I'm not being serious. But do message Jimmy. But
I was going to try and see if we should get some like Finance Pro Blockmates gilets made, and then I was like,
yeah, that would be good. But then people definitely would think that was a serious piece of merch. But no, just to finish that point before we talk about MetaDAO, and I know I jumped on this stream basically slaughtering people, but it's not a team's fault all of the time how a token performs, unless we're talking about pre-launch tokenomic mechanisms and insane inflation structures and all this kind of shit. Especially if something's like fully diluted and like there's not loads of unlocks to come. That's where I feel for teams, like having tokens that they're tied to as a sense of value for the project.
Double zero.
You tell me.
Well,
go on. I don't give a fuck. I'm in the mood to just do it. Yeah.
So, like, if there's no community participation in this launch that launches in the billions, where's that sell pressure came from? You can't even blame like the airdrop farmers who get a pretty bad rap, to be honest. At least like if you do have airdrop farmers, you get some form of like bullshit KPIs to actually raise. And again, to point out, yes, there is a disconnect between fundamentals of a product and a token, but I can't take you seriously if the chart looks like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so
and
then what do you do about it then? What do you do about it?
and it's the funniest name ever that it's called double zero. Like, not that you don't got zero once, it goes twice.
Do you know when we like wonder why people don't like us?
I don't give a fuck anymore.
I don't give a shit anymore. I don't care anymore either. So yeah, that's pretty. But right, so what can you do about it though? If you're a team and you're out there and you've got people like calling you a piece of shit and telling you, you know, eat shit and die and all this kind of thing. Realistically, before we get on the meta DAO, because I do want to talk about it. What can you do?
You cannot raise in the billions before you've got like meaningful traction and product market fit. Like, in what world does that exist? It doesn't.
In
you
our
got laughed
world,
out of the room. Yeah, it's just fucking stupid. It's like, it's absolutely stupid, retarded, deluded, and so like, I don't even know if that's the right word, so I'm not going to say it. But like, it's not the real world. Like, it's so self-referential. It's insane. Like, and then there's no, and you can't even argue that it's like, oh, airdrop farms that are selling into it. It's like, Jump had a shitload of the supply at launch. An entity that was basically Jump but with a different name had supply at launch. It launches in the billions. It's like, I don't know. And people wonder why the fucking industry is so, like, the launch and the raise have turned into the product. Like 563 says, the raise is the product. Like, it's a fucking brilliant statement, because that's what the industry's turned into. This is like blueprint that you roll out, and that is the product.
Well, we had this, weirdly you say that, we had this same conversation in Argentina, actually. We were at lunch one day and Andy was saying this, and it was a pretty bleak argument to make for the industry as a whole, because I don't think that this is necessarily true for every founder. In fact, I don't think it's true for most founders. But Andy was talking about, like, once a raise is complete and the money's there and it's home, it's job done. Now, what he means by that, to add further context, is he wasn't saying that everyone who raises money for a project is then, therefore, that's all I wanted and now I'm going to disappear. The point he was making is, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, people are financially motivated, right? So in crypto, if you can theoretically and literally raise multi-millions for something that doesn't even exist yet, has zero users or product market fit, and you get to walk away, is it the easiest and most obvious grift ever?
You don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, I sat there.
But then don't launch a token then, if that's the point.
Yeah,
because that's just like an additional layer of extraction where everyone's involved in it. Like why launch that token? Why?
Well, that's a rhetorical question, so answer it.
Because you're hoping someone who's thick as shit that gets nerd sniped on the idea of underwater dark fiber being reignited, which is a cool idea, and I actually fully get behind it. But what's the token got to do with anything?
Yeah, no. Bootstrapping mechanism. But
it gets back to, it all comes full circle to like what MetaDAO are doing, or what Hyperliquid have done, like get 30% of the supply into the hands of like diehard users, create a playbook of close to fair launch as physically possible, try and get back to some form of crypto values where there is accountability and product actually has to work and be useful and have meaningful traction before you expect anything. I have no problem with teams getting like stinky rich, like proper filthy rich, as long as the product works.
Yeah,
it's really, really good
and has traction.
And if you add an immense amount of value, and it's something that people use every day, and it's profitable and it runs like an actual normal business in the real world, you should get rewarded very well. Yeah, exactly. But the reward is coming first and always has. For how long? That's it. It's like, how about we just don't do any of the hard shit and then just get F up front? Sounds mint.
Yeah.
We're launching a token as well.
Yeah, we are. I'm just going to keep breaking the third wall. We're launching a blocmates tool. No, people will think I'm serious. But this conversation has gone way off track, by the way, but I quite like it. So, do you agree with that sentiment, though? As far as, like, Ray's, whether insert name here from the past however long, movement,
Story protocol,
story, any of this shit. Because what I don't agree with, though, is, like I've just said there, I do not believe that this is, I know you've said it, that this is it's a playbook and it makes sense, but I don't think that the majority of founders and builders do that approach maliciously. I just don't. I do think that fundamentally, like, they want to build something that works, tech forward for the industry. I'll pull Monad into this because Monad has been like a massive part of this conversation. I fundamentally think that founding team, and maybe I'm literally going on record saying this, is brilliant. Yeah. But Monad are a symptom of like a previous time where they probably, I hope that they shake that off and the network ends up doing well and all this kind of thing. But I do, when, this was my counter argument to Andy when he was saying, well, the job's done. He wasn't specifically talking about Monad, by the way. He was saying in general, that's the playbook. I definitely think that some could be accused of that, by the way, movement, story, to name, like, I'm sure you'd agree with me. But I think that it's a pretty bleak look for us as an industry in a space if that is what most people
But we will get on to meta in a second, but like, the example I always use is, like, there's always like an equal and opposite reaction, whether that be in this industry, any other industry. But look at veganism, then you get fucking carnivores. Like, there's always a counter culture reaction to it. And I suppose your job, if you're supposed to be an investor or a trader or whatever the fuck, or a builder for that example, or for us to actually shine light on where next opportunities and the best teams are. Like, the MetaDAO example is a really, really interesting one. So, Henry, can you bring that screen share up for us, please?
Yeah, let's talk about MetaDAO.
Like, I'll just go high level because you could spend all day like talking about this. So, it's technically a launchpad that's got a really, really good legal structure moat built around it as well, which is like a drastic headache for a lot of teams. You raise in USDC, but then spend it responsibly. So it kind of gets held off. The team pitches to actually launch here. You can't. It's not permissionless. You have to actually put it forward to get into the platform. It's like
pause there for a second, because I think that's a quick segue. And this is a real anti-purist view, but is everything being permissionless also part of the problem with everything we're talking about? Is that culture, do you think, contributes to?
Well, like, what's the most extreme? The most extreme example of that is what we seen during the AI craze, where people you could launch a token with $2 on pump.
Like, that's very true. And that is disgusting as well.
Yeah.
So
how have all them worked out?
That's very, very true.
So that's the opposite. Like, and that was the reaction to, like, when I talk about equal and opposite reaction, that was the antithesis at the time of low float IFTV. Well, let's just let everyone launch a token 100% fully vested for $2. So now it's like, where's the pendulum swinging? And I think it's towards here.
This is the point I'm making, though, isn't it? Is this where we're going? That crypto was born out of this counterculture of, like, idealism that everyone can do everything all the time and it's permissionless, and then it's a reflection of human nature, and that we're going, like, really philosophical here, that you either end up with these multi-million billion-dollar inner circle grifts, or the alternative is a fucking sewage pipe where anyone can do it. So then you end up here, which is why I'm so bullish on the prospect of this. There's so many ways I could pull this conversation, by the way. There's so many things I want to bring up, the conversations I had in Argentina, but I want to stay on track.
Yeah.
Let's talk about MetaDAO and this essentially permissioned way of launching. Sort of launch. Yeah.
It's the middle of the spectrum between those two extremes, what we've talked about. But the main driving force is accountability. So teams, if they're putting forward a proposal and saying they have to do this, like certain tokens only get unlocked and allocated towards a team or like certain distribution if they hit certain KPIs, whether that be token price, like users, blah 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 blah. So like actual accountable KPIs, as opposed to teams getting like drastic unlocks at day one. If they put forward a proposal to what they believe is in betterment of the product, like let's say we want to take 10% of the treasury and create a lot of buybacks, right? Usual DAO governance would allow large token holders to then vote yes, no, or just like completely abstain from the vote. DAOs are completely fucked, right? We know, like, we've seen firsthand some of the underhand games that actually play out there, like people getting bribed for certain votes. There was actually a bribe market created on top of Arbitrum to actually sway votes, and we've seen the underbelly of that, right? So what MetaDAO does then is says, well, let's create, if there's a proposal put forward towards a specific project, let's create a prediction market around it, and the outcome has to be expected value of the token. So if it's a dual outcome, will this buyback create token holder value? Yes or no? And then it creates a prediction market around it. That's the TLDR of it. Obviously, it's a little bit more complex than that. So every prediction market based on the proposal has to resolve in people like putting money, hard-earned cash, on the prediction market to figure out if the outcome is going to be net bullish for the token, and if not, it shouldn't pass. So they're relying on people putting cold hard cash down on the prediction market to decide whether the outcome of the proposal should go forward or not.
Do you know? Right. Let me just poke some holes in this though, because again, and you can probably tell from my tone throughout this, what I don't like about crypto and everything we have and exist for as an industry is I think the part of the issue that we face is that everything, most things in fact, lead back to token value, because everyone feels the right that they should be rich based off a team's hard work, or not even hard work, because of everything we've said. So the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So even though I really, really like the idea of this, it's like how to separate the art from the artist. Like, I think there are plenty of teams out there with tokens in the absolute fucking gutter that don't deserve that. So is this not a strange precedent as well to have?
No, it's the opposite. So the whole idea here is you can't go and just raise like an ungodly amount of money. So if you think about from any, we talk about it like from shareholder value perspective. You know, we were going to get those caps made where it said shareholder value, but we were going to get and change the token holder value, which we still should definitely do. Yeah. This is kind of an extension of that, right? So if you're a token holder of a specific product, where there is like a huge grey area in the industry is like, well, as I brought up with the 00 example, that's not equity. That gives you absolutely no say of what like the future of that protocol should do. So what is it? Is it a coupon? Is it like what actually is it? So
food stamps.
Food stamp, yeah. So the closer we get to actual tokens being tied directly to the underlying product in and of itself, the better.
So VCs are just buying food stamps.
Yeah, and selling them to us at a higher price.
Like this is the point. So Mike's made this point here, which is sort of where this conversation seemingly has ended up going. Doesn't the relationship have to change with VCs' expectations of a token and how that return of investment is returned, such as revenue share? Therefore, it doesn't drive an instant need for another token from the outset just because the numbers look good.
But
what?
But like, this was my point about when like everyone was saying pivot from crypto to AI. AI doesn't give you instant 10% unlock at launch of a token before there's a product live. So where's the incentive there?
Yeah. Well, this is why we're still circling the drain on this conversation, then, aren't we? The job's done when the money's raised.
Yeah.
Because it's that classic scene from Silicon Valley, isn't it? Where he goes, no.
No revenue.
No revenue.
No revenue.
Jesus, there was a conversation that we didn't partake in over whether revenue is a meta, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
That's so insane. Like, take that out of isolation outside of crypto. That's insane. What do you mean? You shouldn't be like, you're running a business. How can revenue not be a priority?
One of the DeFi leads from a team that we haven't mentioned on this episode said something like this probably a year ago, saying what like three like really weird intangibles that team should optimize for, and like my response to that was, how about like revenue and profit? And like that wasn't even on the list, so I was just like, fuck me, like what are we even like? What are we doing? Is this all just like theater? But anyway, back to the good stuff.
Back to the good stuff. Yeah.
Like, again, these raises, like looking to raise 2 million, looking to raise 750k, like obviously they raise slightly more than that. So what I think is going to play out here is, because of what we've mentioned, such a huge dislocation between fundamentals of a product, which we can sometimes all agree on that the underlying protocols and what they're actually doing is great, but the reflection in the correlation to the underlying token is so far removed from what it should be, is where I think like people's disillusionment of the industry lies, right? So like Athena, that is fucking great. That has been a painful token to hold, right? That's just one example I can think of at the top of my head. There are so many projects like that where what they're actually doing is fucking brilliant. Token just does not reflect that whatsoever.
That's the point I'm making, though.
Yeah, but why does that happen? It comes back to everything that we said previously. Distribution's terrible.
Yeah.
Distribution of it's terrible. There's been no meat left on the bone for the average participant. It's what teams tend to do. And I'm not saying Athena here. I'm just saying like what the playbook is. Again, like this, the second and third order effect of these like huge raises, where the raise is the product. Even if the underlying product in and of itself is good and it's somewhat got some form of product market fit and the token isn't reflecting that, is the trade's already played out in the private market, so there's no meat on the bone left for the average retail holder. And then it's kind of like a race to the bottom of who can get out early enough from team and early backers. The problem being is nobody's going to touch anything that's in several hundred millions or billions dollars. There's no upside left in that, and the markets are like compressing and showing that. But what teams would rather do is, I'll use the double zero as an example. Mm-hmm. Let's try and get like a ridiculous valuation from people from the powers that be to set like precedent that we're going to launch in the billions, and then try and defend that price as opposed to building from the ground up, right? So that's the play. But would you rather start with a reduced circulating supply, that an ungodly fully diluted valuation, and try and defend that price in any way, shape or form, so it's always a downhill battle? Or would you rather back yourself, start with significantly lower capital like these teams are doing on MetaDAO, and having all these KPIs and accountability metrics that you have to stick to, and back yourself from starting from the ground up?
Yeah, which by the way, to add further context to what you're saying, most of the time you can't defend it anyway, because the odds are so stacked against you because of the fact that the trade has already played out in the private pre-markets. So most of these teams are standing in a burning house asking who set the fire off, and they're all just arsonists. And then retail is stood there, and we're all looking at each other going, when's retail getting here?
Yeah.
And going, our mates that we all laugh at for fucking catching every 30-40% pump on XRP in the pub are the ones laughing at us.
Gold's pulled the 2x. Gold?
Yeah.
It's 10,000-year-old. So the opportunity here, like to get to the end of the whole point here, it's took me fucking 45 minutes, is there is probably, I think we're slowly going to see it, is any team that thinks they could pull off a similar sort of product that's raised an ungodly amount of money, that thinks they can do it from the ground up, kind of like adjacent to what Hyperliquid have done, where they've said we're not going to raise any money, which could actually called build a thing. This is where I think there's a huge vampire attack on some of these teams that have got a really good product, but the market cap is not attractive and the token is not attractive to anyone. So can you do the same thing? Can you do it and be held accountable? Can you make your users rich by allowing them early access to it? And as those kind of like market caps begin to converge, or if one does actually flip its counterpart, that's when things get really interesting.
Yeah, so take the just stop sharing the screen now, because we're giving immense airtime to these people who haven't paid for a sponsor.
65k a month.
65k a month to sponsor the
Put that through your MetaDAO governance fucking futurarchy vote.
But let me just give you another devil's advocate play there, because we have sat and talked endless shit about raises here and like the compounding effects that has on a token and how people can extract value from betting on the success of the perceived success of a company. You do still need capital because these things are expensive to build. So how do you get around that then? Because that leads me back to what Mike's saying. The money and the funding has to come from somewhere for the majority of the time. Like look at Hyperliquid bootstrapped, right? That's not realistic for a lot of teams and projects. So what's the answer to that then? Because again, I like the way this is going with MetaDAO, with all the conversation we're having. But what's the answer then? Because the truth has to lie somewhere in the middle, right? There needs to be a degree of funding, but is the issue just being because essentially the perceived value of something is already determined before it's even born. How do you get there then? Because you still need to pay the devs, you need to pay the marketers, you need to pay the BD people, all the people that make this work. Unless you have early or pre-access to a hell of a lot of capital and liquidity, how do you get quality projects going?
So that has to be part of the proposal, right? So it has to be. So this is like MetaDAO is put together by Paradigm and Coliseum, the leading Solana hackathon, right? So when they're receiving a proposal for, I don't know, example protocol, which I use as an example, it's not real to buy any tokens. If they was going to say, all right, we're going to launch a Monad competitor, we want to raise 10 million, there's no way Paradigm and people who are like sieving through these initial proposals are going to say, well, you're not going to, like a block explorer is going to cost you 2 million, so you're not going to be able to even go and do that. But there are more expensive parts of a protocol and a build that come later in the game that you don't need to raise for because you haven't got there. So it's all like, it's just general accountability and not saying you're going to like conquer the world on like a CPJ. Do you know what I mean? It's like, all right, calm your fucking tits. Like if you do get there, then you can put towards a governance proposal where it's going to be a prediction market. We request X amount of money to be able to go and do this. This is what we think it will result in. Is that going to be positive for token holder value? Yes. Well, then it goes forward and gets done. Not let's just raise as much money as physically possible, and maybe 5 years in the future we'll do something that might be a benefit to everyone.
Yeah.
When everyone's already left because token's at zero.
It's funny, me and Nev were talking about this yesterday. We were just on the phone yapping about certain like project and stuff that we really bullish on them and stuff. And where I think those of us that have been here long enough, you end up kind of in this sort of weird paranoia phase where you're questioning like what sort of voodoo must be at play for a token getting massacred. Because you're going, what's gone wrong this time?
Did you see the Nillion one? It's down like 70% in technical candle.
Yeah. Did anything, because that happened, I think, either while I was in Argentina or before, and they put some
So while you're aware, they said it was nothing to do with the team. The only one with that amount of supply that could cause that amount of damage would be a market maker, and if that body is still to float at the surface from 1010, then there are the rumours of who it might be, but...
How is that doing now? Is it recovered at all? I haven't looked.
I don't know, it should be, given everything that's been going on privacy, but is it another case of brilliant team, brilliant product?
You're not sharing there, by the way. I can see you moving off.
I'm just looking.
Okay.
No. Down again.
Rough as toast. I was laughing at we had a tweet from Anomiko, fellow bitter washed up unk here, tuning in. Which again...
So we should change the name of the podcast to
Down Bad Unks. Should we launch on Twitch? I wonder what the Twitch crowd would think of us.
They'd probably think it was like, have you seen those We've seen those streams where they get raided because they feel sorry for the people that have got no donate like 10,000.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Right, I want to talk about something else that I've really, really enjoyed since catching up this week, and that is the Kabuto King. So this isn't necessarily a crypto story, although inadvertently we've turned it into one because there's a chart and there's a shitter. But basically, for any other unks here that played like first gen Pokemon, Kabuto is one of the, would you say, like more rare fossil Pokemons, Grant? Like, I can't even remember how you used to acquire a Kabuto. I feel like you used to have to.
Probably common, wasn't it? I think that was like the whole.
And he would have the rock gym.
I feel like it was always showing up if you went through a cave.
Yeah, you'd go through a cave and there'd always be, what was the bat called that you could eventually turn into Gengar? Zubat. And pivot into Pokemon. Zubat and Kabuto. And anyway, the pseudo-anonymous CT account, I say CT, just Twitter account really, Kabuto King, is on a mission to collect every single first edition Kabuto card in the world. Nev, it's a fossil. You had to get the special rock. Yeah, that was it. I forgot how you acquired it. So he's already acquired over 1,700 of the cards so far, and he's posted like a video. It's like a 43-second video where it just shows this guy's mad collection. I love these humans that are obviously like cripplingly autistic, but have ended up quite clearly being really successful. And GameStop has even announced that it's offering Kabuto King first dibs on any PSA graded Kabutos that are traded into GameStop, and the card prices have also pumped. Kabuto King has been asking everyone with cards currently to sell them on eBay, and now amidst all the hype, people have been cancelling orders and hoarding cards to try and resell them at a higher price. But you brought this one up. What's Nev saying here? Because I feel like we're doing a bad job now. It's a fossil. You had to get the special rock. It was a whole plot point. You pick the shell or the Kabuto one. Can't have both. Oh, he's right. Yeah, that was it.
So,
fuck. This makes me want to get the Game Boy out and just play Pokemon again.
Look at this one. Yeah, this has had 500,000 views.
Jesus.
So amazing to see from this perspective. Thank you to everyone who has helped me. Thank you to everyone who's donated a card. Thank you to the people who share, enjoy, and take part in this journey. Thank you to the Solana community for fueling the future of this collection. So I think they're giving like some of the creator fees of the Kabuto token back to him or some shit. But the initial post was absolutely hilarious. It's new Kabutos, 35 total Kabuto count, 1,783. Kabuto's king. But they've absolutely just ripped. He's just cornered the market and drove like huge speculation to it, which is absolutely hilarious. But there's like where Kabuto NM now $47 market price. He's like the Michael Saylor of Kabuto.
Yeah, I'll buy the top forever. Yeah, I agree with Nev. Can we all quit crypto and play Pokemon and stream instead? Mike, someone stole my Pokemon Yellow from America and Game Boy Color from summer school, fuckers. Mike, we're from England. We don't use the term summer school. But I like what he did there for our predominantly American audience. It's probably a wise move. If you were going to, you know that place, do you know that thing where people say like, oh, you could have dinner with 3 people from like all over time. If you were going to do dinner with 3 people in and around the crypto space, who would you go for? Because I think I'd go with Kabuto King. James Wynn. And Jeff.
I
think you get a good variation of content there.
God,
of conversation, I should say, not content. Content on the brain.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually couldn't pick 3, to be honest.
Nah.
That's me at the top of the bull market. Have to be straight answers.
So I'm trying to think what the takeaways of this last hour have been. I think we're going to get Hirsch and the World Capital Markets lads on next week. We're going to do 2 more.
Give him his real name, Titty Respector.
Titty Respector. who his location is Booba Hub. We're going to get those lads on before we break up for Christmas, because we are breaking up because we are still children, and I'm sick of looking at this timeline. And I don't know who we're going to do last week. Maybe Laser. Maybe we'll get Laser and Nev back on. King of the Pipe.
We'll get Laser and Nev, and we'll do a best and worst of 2025.
That's a good one.
We'll do an award ceremony.
Yeah, so I feel like we've done... I don't know what the hell this episode has been, by the way. I feel like this has just been ruthlessly bearish. I don't know where we've ended up.
The only way to not get flamed is to pay for sponsorship on the podcast. Like, that's what people need.
Yeah, true. So, look, we'll end it at this. If you want to pay 65 grand to sponsor the Blockmates podcast, contact Jimmy, the Dutch stud. Jimmy Wilson, DeFi educator. Tell him Alex sent you, and we'll do you a discount. 65k, I'll do it for 63 and a half.
Because it's Christmas.
Because it's Christmas.
Black Friday deals.
If you haven't subscribed to the newsletter, Hickson's been taking some well-earned time off recently, and Lavina has stepped in, and it's been also fucking incredible. I don't know why you would still not be reading the newsletter. Most people are, to be fair. And I think I don't want to run it over an hour because that's just way too long of us talking, but there's so much more I could sit and yap about while we're on a roll this week.
Why don't we talk about FHE for an hour and a half?
So do you know something funny? I've just did it. When I went to Argentina, I was still battling the remnants of the flu. And I did the interview with Declan and Trantor from EtherX and Linear, respectively. And as we were mid-interview, I was really unwell and my suitcase never got there, so all my cold and flu medication didn't make it either, which added to my misery in the first few days of that trip. And there was a point where I asked Declan a question and I just like snotted. Bear in mind, I've just met the guy and I was like, oh, that was so fucking disgusting. And I looked at Josh, and Josh looked at me, and he just knew what I was thinking. That make sure that doesn't edit. And I like embarrassingly like clear my nose.
Probably not loving it.
But it just made me think of that because I just nearly did it again.
Find that if Josh Henry get the footage, we'll put it in the blooper reel. 2025 blooper reel. That should be a good one.
True. So thanks for everyone that's tuned in. Nearly 700 of yous, which is. Pretty good going because none of yous ever tweet us or say anything apart from when we see you in person, which it's because we're all the same. So we appreciate you. I hope you like the new layout. Sub to the newsletter. See you next week. Have a nice Christmas.